Michael, welcome to Deposed. It's a pleasure to have you on the first podcast. I've had the pleasure of hearing you speak, reading some of your books, seeing you commentate on various legal cases in the news or various public relations crises. You're a legend in the PR world. You've represented U.S. presidents, 58 Academy Award winners, 36 Grammy winners, 61 New York Times bestsellers, icons like Michael Jackson. You've authored 19 books, including this one right here, Guerrilla P.R., which is used across the country to teach about public relations. But what I find most fascinating about your story is the underdog story. The fact that you made it despite having the odds stacked against you. And so what I'm interested in learning about is, tell me about your childhood and the odds that were stacked against you and how you overcame those to get to where you're at today.
Well, first of all, my friend, thank you for being here. Now, by noting all those accomplishments, what I think you've done is you've announced to the audience that I have a very reduced social life, which I guess I do in certain ways. I do work a lot. But it's an honor to be here for a show. And I like what you're doing with it. I like the whole podcast format. And I think that you're inquisitive in an interesting way. You and I have had some conversations in which I've watched your inquisitiveness fascinate me. And I guess I'm also born with that inquisitiveness. So anyway, about the underdog story, which is really the cutting edge of my life right now. The cutting edge of my life, since I have nothing further to accomplish in the professional realm, I have but one mission, which is to share with those in the world who are not privileged, who do not come from great privilege, who are indeed an underdog in some way or another. And you can be an underdog even though you come from a privileged home, right? You could be an underdog, let's say, if you had a stutter. You could be an underdog if you had, as I did, dyslexia. Now, if you want to be an underdog with dyslexia, it's better to be an underdog now than 30 years ago, because 30 years ago, we had a different word for dyslexia. I'd like to tell the audience what the word was. May I?
Yeah.
Dumb. That's the word. So anyway, I started in New York. I was born in New York City. I was born 2.5 miles north of Ground Zero. And I'm one of the very few Americans alive today that has the distinction of watching the World Trade Center be built twice. I didn't like the second time as much as the first. But I watched the World Trade Center be built twice. Born in New York, I did not come from a good family. I think you know some of this. There was alcoholism in my family, and anyone who's ever lived in a home with alcoholism knows that's a rough ride. When you grow up in an alcoholic home, very often you raise yourself. So I had this problem of being raised in an alcoholic home. That wasn't good. And then I had a second problem, which was also challenging, and that was I had this disability, which I've had all my life, as you know, called dyslexia. But again, 30, 40 years ago, we used to call it dumb. And so...
Can I ask you about that, dyslexia?
You can ask me
so
that.
I've heard people have dyslexia. I know it has something to do with reading, but can you just tell us, like, what is a life?
Sure.
What is a day in the life of someone who's dyslexic?
Yes, of course I can. I can do it. I can even illustrate it to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hand me that book. Okay. Now, can you see that book?
Yes.
Okay. Can you read it okay?
Perfect.
Now watch. Start reading.
Oh, interesting. So is it
Start reading.
Can't.
Just start reading. Come on, you can do it. Start reading.
So is that a vision problem?
No, it's a cognitive problem. It's a neurological problem. But when when you get your credit card bill every month, right? You know how you get the credit card bill, right? And it comes on that piece of paper with that really, really, really small type. And you're dyslexic? That's annoying. You can't see that.
So what were people telling you, or what did you think of yourself when you had that as a kid, not knowing there's a thing called dyslexia?
Right. You're dumb. You're just slow.
Wow.
You're dumb. You're slow. Which, by the way, if you're told you're dumb as a child, you tend to believe it.
Were you told that?
Of course. I was told by my principal, by my teachers.
Oh, wow.
This kid is just slow. He's slow. That was the word at the time. By the way, there was no political correctness in the age. So commonly, you could hear in popular parlance the word retarded. Now, you'd never hear that today, right? The kid is retarded. That was said commonly.
Wow.
So it was a very different era. I grew up in this home that had alcoholism in it. That is not good, and the dyslexia not good.
When you say you grew up in a home with alcoholism, there's some images that come to mind, and that can mean different things.
Sure.
If you're comfortable with it, do you mind sharing with us, what does that mean? You grew up in an alcoholic home? And
effectively, I think the best way I can explain it to you is my mother was an alcoholic. My father was a very nice, gentle man. He died this year at 101.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. He was a nice man, a gentle man, a good man. But he was a bit passive, and even at moments, weak. Now listen, I don't know what it's like to raise 2 children in New York City with an alcoholic wife. That's pretty rough. I don't know if I could have done any better. But it was a rough ride in certain ways. Now, it's a very different America, my friend. Very different America. The first time I ever rode a New York City subway alone was age 9.
Oh, wow.
Now you say, come on, that's not possible. Brother, a lot of kids 9 years old were on the subway alone at that time. You walked to school in the snow. Nobody took you to school. Age 9, age 10. You have to walk to school, and it's snowy out. Go get a scarf. The babying of today didn't exist. Now, I'm not saying that is better or worse. In some ways it was better, in some ways it was worse. Anyway, it was a different time. I was a very, very, understandably, given the dyslexia, a very, very, very poor student. Barely graduated high school. Barely. Underlined, barely. So now I'm 17. I got no money. I got no job. I've got no education. I've got no parenting. I'm scared. I'm skinny. And I got dyslexia. Let's just say I wasn't holding great cards. Okay?
Right.
So, how do you play your cards? Now, you can go, I guess, one of 2 ways, right? Most people who are traumatized in youth, and that doesn't work out too well. But there's about, I don't know, 10%, a small percentage that somehow take the same disadvantage and it turns strangely into a fuel. Now, why is it that 90% have the same trauma and it shatters them, And 10% have the same trauma, and it accelerates them.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. That's called mysteries of the mind. I have no idea.
Would you describe that difference in you as anger, motivation? How would you describe that? Because that is unusual. So a lot of people that are in that track, they end up just going down the wrong path.
90%.
Right. So what is that feeling like? Dyslexic, alcoholic family, probably not, your future's probably not looking...
Didn't have a good prom night.
Okay.
I bet you had a better prom night, son. Okay.
So your future at 17, in your mind, what did your future...
Well, look. Let's do it this way. You're a smart guy. Would you have bet on me at 16, 17? Fuck no. Fuck no. Are you crazy? You out of your mind? This is a bad bet, son. But it somehow turned out. And I do believe now, I'm going to say something to the audience that maybe sounds odd. I actually believe that the disadvantages that I had in my life, strangely, turned out to be advantages. Now you'll say, what the fuck are you talking about? How could a disadvantage? What? That doesn't make any sense. I think the disadvantages gave me gifts that I couldn't be aware of at the time. So, for example, one of the things I've learned about dyslexics is they're often hyper observant. Now, you know me a little bit, not 100%, but I think you'd probably say to a friend, yeah, this guy's pretty fucking observant.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
And you're very observant too. So it's an interesting thing.
Why do you think you're hyper observant? What's the link between that and you think your disadvantages?
Well, I think my disadvantage of dyslexia may have gifted me in some hard to explain way in being hyper observant. Now, why is that? I don't know. Mysteries of the mind. See, I'm not very bright, but I'm above average at watching what bright people do, and that's been damn helpful. But I'm maybe even better at watching what dopey people do. And that may be even more important.
Okay, so you're 17 in New York, barely graduated high school.
Scared, skinny, barely graduated high school.
And in that moment, were you scared of what the future had for you? Were you confident you're going to make it work? Or
No.
what was your mentality like?
No, I wasn't confident. I think I was... I think I was confused. I think I didn't know. But as I started to attempt to move forward, and you know, this line that I just said about I'm not very bright, which is true, but I'm above average at watching what bright people do. Now listen here, that's important. People listening to this, you're gonna observe people in your life who, for whatever reason, got it going on. They're bright, they're interesting, they're powerful, they're doing something special. Men, women, gay, straight, black, white, watch them. Damn it, watch them. Observe them. Be mentored by them. I mean, I think, I don't know this, I think you share a somewhat similar view on mentorship, the power of it.
Absolutely.
And then watch, if you got watch what dumb fucks do and don't do that. Right?
Right.
If you see a person who is a dope and watch what they do and don't do that. Come. So anyway, these are all thoughts that as I began to try to move forward, confused, I think I observed, though I didn't have the words for it at the time, that life was really a symposium on how you play your cards. So some people get bad cards and they play them good. Some people get good cards, they play them bad. Some people get medium cards, they play them medium. How are you going to play your cards? And don't avoid this. And I don't know how I did fully. Maybe I didn't fully. I don't know. Initially, maybe I didn't. If you want to be broke in America, and not many people do, but if you do, here's the number one rule. Think like a victim. I didn't do that. See, if you're sitting around at your goddamn home and you're saying, I can't, Trump's fucking me up, and the government, and the world, and men in Hollywood, and I'm a victim. See, that's a bad plan.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bad plan. Unless you want to be broke, frustrated, and exhausted. If you want to be broke, frustrated, and exhausted, think like a victim.
Right.
But if you say, no, I don't want to be broke, I don't want to be exhausted, I don't want to be frustrated, then don't think like a victim.
So then how do you think?
Well, that's the first is to think, don't think like a victim. And then how do you think? Like you're the master of your own destiny largely. Now, there is some element of luck in life, timing, luck. There's some element of that. But overwhelmingly, people are where they are. You right now are where you are because of who you are, for better or for worse.
Mm-hmm.
And the same to the audience. Listen up. You are where you are because of who you are.
Okay, so then how do you make it from New York to California?
Well, in my youth, I had two passions. Some people don't know what their passions are, but I had two passions growing up in my youth. The entertainment industry was a passion, and politics was a passion. And so in New York at 17, I had to make a decision over a period of time, year or two, which course to take. Was it going to be entertainment? Was it going to be politics? That was because that's what I was passionate about. And somehow I decided that because of the grotesque opening act of my life, I needed a new canvas. I felt somehow I needed a new canvas. And so on September 16th, 1977, I arrived in California in search of a new canvas. And of course, that didn't hurt that it was the entertainment industry. Now, California then, very different place than today. That song, California Dreamin', by the Mamas and the Papas. The reason that it's such a beautiful song, but it was such a beautiful time to be here. It was paradise. Today, I'd change the title. I'd change it from California Dreamin' to California Screamin'. I'm not joking. So anyway, I came out here for a new canvas. I needed a fresh start, or so I felt. Fuck do I know what I needed, but that's what I felt. So I came out here, and then...
Did you know anybody here? Have any connections?
Sir, I did not. I couldn't pronounce... What was the street called? La Cienega. Rodeo. Whoa. First apartment, $247. Right by the old Ambassador Hotel, which isn't there anymore. Also by the Brown Derby. Los Angeles, a very different place then. The world was a very different place then. But off I went.
Did you have a job?
No, I didn't. And who the fuck would hire me? Let's be honest. Not exactly but I did something in hindsight that I'll tell you about that I think was useful. I really do. I really think this was useful. I came here and I made a decision, and I don't know why I did it, but I did, to burn the boats. Now, people listen, what the fuck does that mean, burn the boats? Burn the boats means within 1 week, I had a Los Angeles library card. Within 1 month, I had a California driver's license. I wasn't here to test out whether this was right. I burned the boats. There was no going back, no alternative. Now, why did I do it? I don't know. But I do think it was useful. I committed to my new city fully and completely, and I think that was valuable.
Yeah, I think that's an unusual thing. I think nowadays we're used to comparing things and let's test this out, see how it goes.
How it goes.
And
Give it 6 months.
Yeah.
If I'd given it 6 months, I'd been, oh man.
So what was that like when you got here?
Scary. The first 6 weeks, my stomach was so damn upset I couldn't eat much. It's scary. I was frightened. Sleep wasn't good. It was scary. But maybe it was meant to be scary. Maybe the great adventures of life and youth are hard and scary at times. I don't know. I can't tell you. It was scary. But then slowly, if you learn that you're playing the cards, the world's not playing them. Now, at that time, in America, 1977, Jimmy Carter's the president. Now, most people watching this don't know who, maybe they know who Jimmy Carter is, but they don't not too good. And what I didn't do is spend much of my day thinking about, well, if Jimmy Carter weren't president, my life would be better. My life may have been better if Jimmy Carter weren't president, but I didn't spend much time thinking about it. I thought, how can I do it? How can I learn, do it, find it? And you gotta, it's not a 5-day week, bro. You gotta put a lot of effort in.
And so how did you go from that to getting into public relations? You're here, you don't know anybody. You don't really have any prospects, connections, friends.
Correct.
and somehow you made it into public relations at the highest levels. What?
Well, hold on now.
Yeah.
It wasn't at the highest levels in the beginning.
Right.
You don't start at the highest levels. What happened to me was that as I got here, I, through what Bob Dylan calls a simple twist of fate, brought on by a simple twist of fate. So what happened to me was, brought on by a simple twist of fate, is I, through a friend of a friend of a friend, got to meet a woman who worked at Paramount Studios, and this woman worked in the PR department, which was very uncommon at the time because women were secretaries almost entirely. See, now people listening to this say, what are you talking about? But I'm telling you, 99% of the women at Paramount Studios or any place were secretaries, and not that many women were working. Okay. So I met this woman, and I asked her, again, I don't know, maybe I'm predisposed to inquisitiveness, but I asked her, she said she worked in the PR department. I said, really, what is that? She said, well, we work at Paramount in the PR department, marketing PR. I said, really? She said, yeah. I said, that's interesting. What do you do all day? She said, what do I do all day? I said, yeah, what do you do all day? You can't come here. What do you do all day? She says, well, I bullshit on the phone. And I said, I think I can do that. Now, I didn't try to get a job at Paramount because I wouldn't have been hired. But I thought, well, maybe I'll start a PR firm, which is a problem since I didn't know what PR was. But I figured I can learn. And you know something? It's a funny thing. If in the beginning you're willing to work for free, and you don't have to work that long for free, very few people can resist free.
Is that what you did?
Yes. Hell
Okay.
yes. I took clients on for free. But my point here is people out there complaining to themselves, to the world. Hey, I don't have a job. I can't find a job. Hey, I don't have a job. I can't find a job. Hey, I don't have a job. I can't find a job. Look, motherfucker, I'll find you a damn job in an hour. Shut your damn mouth. I'll find you a job in an hour. You're not going to get paid for it, but I'll find you a job in an hour. Well, wait a second. That means I'm going to work for free. No, you jackass. You're going to work for knowledge and opportunity. If you have a brain. See, if you don't have a brain, you sit around and say, how the hell can I work for free? But if you have a brain, you say, wait. Now, there's a different currency here. That's called knowledge and opportunity. See, when you go to school, do you pay to go to school? Well, hell yeah. Some people pay a lot of money. Listen to this. I got a friend whose kid just got into USC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's a pretty good kid. $97,000 a year.
Wow.
What? What? So, anyway, knowledge and opportunity, free, hard to beat free, but you don't have to do it that long. See, it's like a little step ladder. First, you work for free. Do that for about 6 months, 5 months, 3 months, 8 months, depends on how good you are, right? And then you bump right up the step. Then you work for below market. See, everybody else is charging $1,000, you charge $500, a little below market. Wait, I'm losing money. No, you idiot. You're gaining opportunity. Shut up. Then it's another 6 months of that. You go right up the ladder. Now you're on market. They're charging $1,000. You're charging $1,000. That wasn't too bad, the 3-step. And then another 6 months go by. Then they're charging $1,000. You're charging $2,000. How did that happen? Well, I forgot to tell you on the journey up, you got to work 7 days a week, not 5. What? But what about the football game on Sunday? What about it? Well, I like my team. You like being broke? You want to hear something funny about me?
Yeah.
I think this is going to make you laugh, but we'll try it out. I don't think your audience is going to believe it. I have never in my life watched one episode of Seinfeld.
No way.
I've never watched one episode. Now, is there people watching this that say, "Oh God, that's sad. What a pathetic guy. That was such a great show. How could he miss?" I never saw one episode of Friends. Hey, many are called, few are chosen.
And how much of that do you think was you getting here? And it sounded like you're just in survival mode, really.
There you go. And survival mode will help you. That'll focus your ass.
Did that ever leave your system, that survival mentality, once you got to a certain comfort level? Or do you think that was...
That's such a good question. You ask good questions. I see why this show is called Deposed. Did I... yes and no, which sounds like a half answer. I cognitively know. My cerebral cortex is sufficient to know that I don't need to work financially. But there is a part of your being, a psychological, subconscious part of your being, that remains the scared, skinny kid.
Mm-hmm.
And how do they interplay with each other? Well, we all know that a brain has a logical side, and we know a brain has an emotional side, and we know, if we think about it, that these two sides are in an arm wrestle all the damn time, like a Titanic arm wrestle, logic, emotion, logic, emotion, logic. Now, most of the time, emotion wins, right? Particularly when a human being is hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. If you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you can bet on emotion 100 times out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
See, but it's the human condition, and it's a fascinating thing. And I'm going to say something to you. I've said it to you, I think, once before. I'm going to say it to your audience. I'm going to say it to you again. It's going to sound absolutely outrageous, but I mean it. If there's someone watching this show and they want their life to get better,
Mm-hmm.
which I imagine many people do, right? Not many people are sitting around saying, "Oh, no, I'd really like my life to get worse. I'd like my life to get better. In the new year, I'd like my life to get better." Okay, cool. Well, first of all, I wish you well. I hope your life gets better. But hope isn't a strategy. So let me tell you a thought that's going to sound outrageous. Reduce your texting by 90%. Now, there's people, they think the microphone's not working. Maybe you didn't hear me. Let me tell you again. Listen carefully. Reduce your texting by 90%. And Refer to that. Start. Now, that sounds so crazy. Why? Why? It's fun to text. It's good. It's useful. I always text. It's helpful. All people text. What are you talking about? First of all, don't tell me that. I don't want to hear about all people. All people, all people do a lot of crazy shit. Okay, now look. Think about the last 100 text messages you got or you received or sent. And show them to me right now. Show them to me. Well, 90% of them are horse shit. What are they? They're emojis and they're back and forth. You just go through, when you're at home, just go through your last 100 messages. 90 of them will have no impact on your life 5 years from now, except they robbed you of some time and attention. Distracting your mind with my life will not get better because next year I'm going to have more emojis than this year. Now, I understand that thought is very contrarian. It's not normal. Most people would agree. They'd laugh. They're not going to do it anyway. But the question is not whether it's average. The question is whether it's true. So
what I'm getting from what you're saying, not having seen a single episode of Seinfeld, Friends, talking about not texting, it sounds like you have a different relationship with time than probably most people.
And you know what I learned? And you may have also learned it. I don't know. You're a younger man. If you think of the most successful people you know, and I don't only mean professionally successful, really efficient, successful people, they have a reverence for time that average folks don't have. Wednesday at 9:30 doesn't mean Wednesday at 11:15. It means 9:30, not 9:35. See, in the Army, I never served in the military, but I'm told in the military they teach you early on, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. And that means, in English, if you're 14 minutes early, what are you? You're late. Isn't that interesting? Just a reverence of time and a focus.
Right.
Figure out, what is life? Is not life merely the comfortable answering of one question with two parts? What do you most want? And what are you willing to give up to get it? So, let's look at the audience. Hello, audience. What do you most want in the next 5 years? What do you most want? And what are you willing to give up to get it? Kind of interesting question.
So you start your PR firm, you start taking on clients for free, you work your way up, and throughout this process, did you ever have any doubts this isn't going to work? Something fails, a client leaves you, or
the burn the boats philosophy says it must work. There's no alternative.
An alternative.
We will pay any price, bear any burden.
Did you never have a night where
many nights of uncertainty, but resolve? The uncertainty was coupled with resolve.
I'm curious where that comes from. Like, were there
necessity? Where did it come from? Look, let's talk privately to each other for a minute now. The audience is watching. If you and I went into a restaurant right now and we said to the person behind the counter or the waiter, "Excuse me, ma'am, sir, I'd like to have a hard-boiled egg today."
Mm-hmm.
Waiter, cashier says, "I'm sorry, sir, we don't have hard-boiled eggs." Well, I really, really want a hard-boiled egg. Could you help me? "No, I'm sorry, sir, we don't have hard-boiled eggs." Now, at this point in the story, I'm going to put my hand into my coat jacket. And I'm going to remove from my coat jacket a revolver. And I'm going to point it right at the server or the hostess. This is not real, guys. Come on, you got to play. You got to work with me on this thing. And I say, "Now look, maybe you didn't hear me. I really want a hard-boiled egg. Now, what do you think the chances are in the next 24 hours or the next hour? Let's forget 24 hours. The next hour, that nice young man will find a hard-boiled egg." Well, if you put it that way, I guess he would.
Right.
Well, that's true. Now, what if we could seduce people somehow, some way, internally, externally, to value creativity, excellence, resolve. Creativity and excellence are good words, as much as you did survival. How would you behave if you valued excellence, creativity, relentlessness as much as you did survival? Well, I guess with urgency, wouldn't you? Yes, and in the case of the gun, maybe fierce urgency, right? That's survival. It literally has to come from within. I don't know if any of this is it making sense?
Absolutely. No, it's a level of intensity.
It's crazy talk.
It's intense.
Yeah. And listen, I don't want people listening to this to make this silly, frankly, rookie and embarrassing mistake of thinking that I said, "Well, I'm going to take a gun." I mean,
Yeah.
come on now. You're better than that. It's a metaphor.
Right.
And you're getting it, but I want the audience to get it. It's a metaphor.
Right. So, Michael, at some point, I'm guessing things change in your public relations firm. Was there a time where you got your first big client?
Sure. Yeah, I think the first, I guess what would be called superstar client at the time was Charlton Heston. And it was an interesting story, at least was for me. I got an opportunity. Now, Charlton Heston was the biggest star in the world at the time. Be like, I don't know, George Clooney times 1,000. Charlton Heston? Now, nobody knows who Charlton Heston is today. I understand that. I get it. That's sad to me. He was a fine man, by the way. But you talk about me being scared out of my pants. I got a meeting with Charlton Heston. I'm 29 years old. Now, Charlton Heston played Moses, imposing. And Mr. Heston asked me to meet him at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Now, I can't afford the parking for the valet. I got to park on the damn street. There's a park across from the Beverly Hills Hotel, and I parked on the street. So I walk over to the Beverly Hills Hotel. Holy shit. I mean, you know, I don't know, it's $20 hamburgers. I never saw a $20 hamburger. What? So I meet Mr. Heston.
Do you know how he heard of you?
It happened through an agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And through a friend, or relationships.
Right.
If you don't have relationships, you're fucked. Let me be, can I be more direct? So that's another interesting topic we'll talk about. But I was at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I'm seeing Charlton Heston. My hand is shaking. Oh my God. And so what happened was he let me talk for about 10 minutes, and I gave it my best. I had rehearsed it. I planned. I talked fast. I gave it my best. And 10 minutes is pretty good for an inarticulate 29-year-old, so I gave it my best. And then Mr. Heston, who had a very deep, almost like Mount Rushmore-like voice, spoke with great authority. And he looked at me and he said, "Mr. Levine, it is obvious to me that you're a very bright young man," which I wasn't. "But I don't understand something. Perhaps you can explain to me how you can make me more famous." I don't know why I answered the way I did, but I said, "Mr. Heston, I don't believe I can make you more famous, sir. I think I can make you more relevant." I got hired.
Interesting.
I represented him for 25 years.
What is the difference between being famous and being relevant?
Well, Charlton Heston was famous, but he wasn't contemporary. So what I did when I represented him is I got him to host Saturday Night Live.
Oh, wow.
Right? So I called him up. I said, "Mr. Heston, I've got some great news." I called him Mr. Heston for 25 years. He said, "Call me Chuck." "No, sir." "Mr. Heston, I've got some great news." "Really?" Booming voice. "Really, Michael? What is that?" I said, "I've got you to host Saturday Night Live." He said, "What is Saturday Night Live?" I said, "It's a TV show, and it's great." "Well, do you think I should do it?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "Then we'll do it." And that was crazy days.
And so did you find, so that's like the first, was that a confirmation for you at that moment that
It was a confirmation for me, and it was a confirmation for the world. And, if you think of things, there are confirmation moments. There are moments in your life in which you think, okay.
Right. Because I feel like for a lot of us, until we've actually made it, there are moments where we feel we really know what we're doing. Then other times we feel like imposters waiting to be figured out.
The imposter syndrome is very common and very
Did you experience that?
Yeah, sure.
Did that ever truly go away, or do you feel like your life was more oscillating between the two?
I think that as you get older, you get if you haven't fallen into the pit of self-destruction, which many people do.
Mm-hmm.
I think you do indeed get a better sense of who you really are in this world, for good and for bad. Before the show started, there was a nice young woman working here doing a great job. And she was making everything perfect. And I reminded her, I said, Claudia, I think I have some fairly good qualities. God gave me some of them. But I'm not sure patience is one of them. No, I'm not a patient person, you know.
Right. And that ties into you valuing time also.
That does.
It sounds like you have an interesting relationship with it.
It is. I do have an interesting relationship with time.
Yeah.
But I do. May I tell you
Sure.
something? I figured something out real early that I'm going to tell the audience and tell you.
Yeah.
And you can steal it. And I'm telling you, this thing really helped a lot. So the story goes like this. I started out in PR and I didn't know what I was doing. And I really couldn't keep up with everybody else who did know what they were doing. So I made a decision, and I don't know why I made it, but I made it. Now, the decision was to go into my office at 10:30 in the morning on Saturday and stay till 2:30. That's 4 hours. From 10:30 to 2:30 on Saturday. Why did I decide to do that? I don't know. So I arrive at my office. Here's a couple of quick things I learned very fast. Number 1, easy parking. Nobody's there. There's easy parking. Number 2, it's quiet. Nobody's there. No distractions. Wow. Nobody asking you how the weekend was, this, that, nonsense. Where's the mayonnaise? Do you have any sugar? None of that. So it's quiet. So I worked 4 hours, I left, and I figured something out. I figured that because it was so damn quiet, those 4 hours really had an effective rate, if you will, of 8 hours due to the lack of distraction. Mm-hmm. So the 4 really turned into a value of 8. That means I start Monday morning 8 hours ahead of all the other folks who do know what they're doing. I'm 8 hours ahead, but I don't know what I'm doing. So can they catch me with 8-hour lead? And the answer is yes, because they know what they're doing. Now, the next Saturday, guess what? I go in again. How many hours did I spend? 4. But it's quiet. 4 equals 8. Now I've done 8 hours week 1, 8 hours week 2. Now I'm 16 hours ahead. They know what they're doing. I don't. Can they catch me? Well, perhaps. But what do I do the next Saturday? I go in again. That's another 8. You see how the game is going here?
Right.
8 and 8 and 8 and 8. Now, here's a question for you, or for the audience. What would happen to my Saturday routine if Halloween was on a Saturday? Would I go in or not? Would I go in or not? Halloween Saturday, would I go in or not? Correct answer is go in. Wait. Let's make this more interesting. What if your birthday is Saturday? You going to go in on your birthday? Hell yes. What are you talking about, son? Come on now. Well, wait a second. What if... In you go. And that made a big difference. I divided the time, the 4 hours this way. 2 hours to catch up on the shit I didn't get done, because there's always shit you don't get done. And then 2 hours, see, I divided it in half, 2 and 2. 2 hours to catch up, 2 hours to plan for the future of the week ahead. And that 4 equals 8.
So with this kind of schedule, the kind of relationship you have with time, what appears to me to be a disdain for excuses, whether it's from yourself or others. Did that impact the type of friends you kept or didn't keep or cut out in order to maintain kind of this
I don't know if
lifestyle?
disdain is the right word. I think that, people choose their path. Now, most people would not sign up for my path, and I wouldn't sign up for theirs. And I'm not sure my path is the right path for everyone, and I'm not sure their path is the right one for me. I think my path likely was the right path for me. So, you ask me a question. Let's say you say, "Hey, Michael, I don't know this about you. You got a pet? You got a dog?" "No dog." "Oh, that's too bad. Had a nice little dog." We all make choices. I don't understand some of people's choices. They don't understand mine. So
Right.
that's okay.
And how do you interact with people that are...
Oh, and who you're... Listen, Lionel Richie said something to me once that was very interesting. Now, I never, Lionel Richie's a great musician, but I never thought of him as a particularly profound thinker. I just didn't. I thought he was a great musician. But he said something to me once. It was at a party, and it's very profound, I thought. He said, Michael, you are who you hug. You are who you hug. 5 words. Isn't that interesting? You are who you hug. You are who you're around. Isn't that interesting? If you have 4 friends that are broke, right?
Mm-hmm.
You, dear friend, will be the 5th. That's worrying. If you have 4 friends that are broke, you're going to be the 5th. Although you may not be smart enough to know that at the time.
Right. So a certain level of vigilance that you exercise.
Not a certain level, rather significant level.
Okay, so then you have your successful client, Charlton Heston, one of the biggest celebrities in the world, and I assume that paved the way.
It did. It helped. It helped, but also going in Saturday helped. And being out and working. I would get up in the morning, get into the office, suit and tie, by the way, go into the office, work from 9 to 6:30, 7, long day. And most people did. In my office 15, 20 years ago, entertainment industry, if you saw someone get up from their desk at 6 o'clock at night, what are they going downstairs to get a candy bar? They must be coming back. Where the hell are you going? 6 o'clock. That's a late lunch, son. Sit down. We're not going anywhere. So I'd work till maybe 6:37, and then I'd go to a business dinner. Now it's a business dinner. Work till about, or have dinner till about 9:30. Then I'd go to the Improv. I'd go to the Comedy Store. A kid at the Comedy Store. You got to see this kid at the Comedy Store. Okay. Now it's after a business dinner. I've been working since 7 in the morning. It's now 10 at night. And you got to see this kid. He's pretty good with impressions. Okay. So he's pretty good. He does impressions. He sings like Sammy Davis Jr. and all that. Okay. I see the kid. Kid's pretty good. He's very good. He's good with impressions. I said, "What's that kid's name?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, tell me that kid's name. He's good with impressions." Okay, let me find his name. Guy comes back. He says his name is, I think it's Jim Carrey?
Oh,
Jim
wow.
Carrey? I don't know who he is. He's from Canada. So the kid's name is Jim Carrey? Yeah. C-A-R-R-I-E? No. C-A-R-R-E-Y. He's from Canada? Yeah. Well, is he going to stay here? What's going on? I don't know. You got to be there at 10 o'clock at night.
You weren't there for the comedy show. You were there prospecting potential clients.
Because somebody told me you got to see this kid.
Right.
Now, at that point in the story, I'm representing almost every major comedian in the world.
Right.
George Carlin, Joan Rivers, Sam Kinison, Andrew Dice Clay. I got more comedians. I'm representing the improvisation, the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory. We got every, I don't even know who they are, but somebody said, you got to see this kid. And that's how it happens, but you got to be there. You got to be there at 10 at night.
Did you end up working with them?
We did not work together. We didn't. I saw him and I liked him. He didn't have any money.
Right.
Which, of course, means he can't hire me.
Right.
But we had a conflict at the time and it didn't work out. But I met him. I said, kid, you're good.
One of the things you were just saying, all these people you represented, whether they're U.S. presidents, Grammy Award winners, Academy Award winners,
yes,
et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
And you telling me and me knowing that you're an observant person, you're saying, what do people do right? What do they do wrong?
Right.
Was there a common theme you saw that successful people live by?
Yeah. Let's start with what they don't live by.
Okay.
When a celebrity or a talent, when their drive to self-destruct is greater than their drive to succeed, bad bet. Leave it alone. When their drive to self-destruct is greater than their drive to create, to succeed, take your money home. Go home. That's a bad bet. But the super successful, not the successful now, the super successful, did have qualities in common that I discovered, which took me a very, very long time of observing, years and years. And I talk about them a little bit in some speaking I do. And the way I try to do it is in a memorable sense of 3 magic O's. Okay? So magic O number 1 is obsession. They got to have an obsession. Number 2 is they've got to have a sense of optimism, that tomorrow can be better than today. They're not a victim. Optimism. That perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. Not, naive optimism, but optimism. They can do it. They will do it, no matter what, no matter the price. And then the last is obligation. They have a commitment to keeping their word, particularly to themselves. Their word is their bond, particularly to themselves. They don't say shit like, hey, next year I'm going to lose some weight. They don't say shit like that. They say, listen here, 8 pounds, July 4th. Did you hear me? 8 pounds, July 4th. You see, that's a different mindset, isn't it? So those were the 3 that I noticed. And the super successful, not the successful.
Right.
And they were present in all of them. It wasn't just celebrities. It was Howard Schultz at Starbucks, and it was Elon Musk, and it was Steve Jobs, and it was Bill Gates, and it was anyone who had massive, massive success.
And do you feel those type of personality types also force you to step your game up? Not that it wasn't already there, or do you think because of who you were, it was the perfect match for that kind of stressful environment?
I think people find, when Elon Musk is hiring people, he doesn't look for the slow group.
Mm-hmm.
Warren Buffett said something very interesting once. He said, when he's looking to hire people, he looks for three things. I said, oh, what's that, Mr. Buffett? He said, well, the first thing I look for is talent. That's a phrase for brains. Do they have the talent, the brains? It's cool. The second thing I look for is drive, the energy. The energy. Talent, energy, cool. What's the third thing? Integrity. Integrity. And Michael, listen to me. If they don't have the third, I don't want them having the first two. See, if they're a thief, I want them slow and dumb. If they're a crook, I want them slow and dumb. If they got integrity, I want them fast and bright. Isn't that an interesting phrase?
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting? See, if they don't have any integrity, you don't want them fast and smart. You want them slow and dumb. Isn't that worth thinking about?
Interesting.
So people find, when Elon Musk is hiring folks, you better play hard, or
right.
That's just not going to work.
Now, Michael, what about, I think about myself or other friends I have that we're not celebrities, we're not presidents or Grammy Award winners or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Is there still, or what value does public relations still have for people like us?
Well, if you believe as I do,
Yeah.
I was quoted in the Wall Street Journal as saying that in today's modern world, not the world of your father, but the world of today, it is impossible to be credible without being visible. Visibility and credibility have attached themselves to each other in the modern world, almost like an umbilical cord with a baby and a mom. So as you raise your visibility, you, by definition, using that umbilical cord metaphor, raise your credibility. So whether you're a great attorney like yourself, or you own a restaurant, or whatever it is, marketing, perception will create reality far more than reality will create perception. And that goes for this wonderful Manhattan Beach Studios as well.
Right.
It's a beautiful studio, but without marketing.
And is that something you need a publicist for, or are there steps you'd recommend for people just,
Listen.
Yeah.
You do what you can with what you have. So if you don't have much, go out and buy my damn book. See, it's $12 on Amazon. If you can't
Guerrilla P.R.
Yeah. If you can't afford that, by the way, you have to invest another $1.50. So the $12 is for the book, and then you got to go and get a yellow highlighter. That's $1.50. Now you got $13.50 in. Start reading, start highlighting.
Well, speaking of books, I don't know if you know this story, but when I was a kid growing up in Santa Cruz, California, I went to a small bookshop called Capitola Book Cafe. And it was my first time purchasing a nonfiction book. And I came across a book. The title was something like How to Reach Anyone, something like that. And it was a book filled with addresses for celebrities. And that was the first nonfiction book I ever bought. I immediately used it to, at the time, I was a big MacGyver fan. And I used it to write to Richard Dean Anderson. And I didn't hear back for a while. But when I got the autographed picture back, I looked at that book like, oh my God, this book is masterful. And I learned years later that that was your book.
It was.
You're the one that wrote that.
I sold 1 million copies of that book. All it was a book of addresses.
And how did you come up with, how did you come up with that idea you have 19 books, different topic areas. Is that something you're curious about something and you just write about it, or
yeah, I don't know. It occurred to me, Now remember, that was the no internet time of libraries. I thought to myself, well, if somebody wants to write a letter to the president of Exxon or the president of Starbucks or whatever, Starbucks wasn't around at the time, or whatever it might have been, McDonald's, how do you get the address?
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to the library and I asked the librarian. She said, we don't have a book like that. There's no book like that. And I said, well, wait a second. There's got to be a book like that. She says, no, there is none. I said,
oh, wow.
Oh.
Got it. Interesting.
I sold that book to Putnam and sold 1 million copies.
Wow. One of them was to me.
Yes, sir. Yes. And, if you meet an author, right, here's a good thing to know about meeting an author. Because a lot of people will come up to you if you're an author and they'll say, oh, yeah, I read your book. And all the author is saying is, I don't give a fuck if you read it. I just care if you bought it. Tell me if you bought it. Right. Don't tell me if you read it.
Well, these were all purchased, just so you know.
Yeah, good.
Michael, we talked a lot about your success.
Yep.
What was one of the best?
I hope we've talked a lot about what their success can be.
Yeah, and what do you have to say about that in terms of somebody listening to this who wants to turn their life around, who gets motivated by this and wants to do something?
Ask yourself a question. If the next 5 years of your life go no better, no worse than the last 5, is that going to make you happy, sad, or no opinion? Now listen again. I'm going to do it for you slowly. Ask yourself a question. If the next 5 years of your life go no better or no worse than the last 5, they're kind of replications. Will that make you happy, sad, or no opinion? And then predicated on those 3 answers, act accordingly. If it'll make you happy, then fucking do it. If it'll make you sad, then fucking don't do it. And if you have no opinion, I think you better sit down and clear your head a little bit. Are you drinking too much or what's going on?
Right.
So these, answers are good things. Questions are maybe as important. Good questions are maybe as important. You ask very good questions. So that's important.
Okay, got it. And is there any last message you have for the audience before we wrap this up? You've shared a lot. How can people? Yeah. How can people learn?
Well, I've started to do something. I think you know about, but maybe about a year ago. Mm-hmm. Now I have, as you know, a PR firm called Boundless Media that has been in existence now 41 years. It's still going. It's going strong. It's a whole bunch of young people there. I still work at it every day, 7 days a week, not 5. I'm the only person, there's 2 people in the world alive, me and one other, who represented Michael Jackson when he was alive, and now also represent the Michael Jackson estate.
Oh, wow.
Now, when Michael Jackson died 15 years ago, he was $500 million in debt. That's $500 million in debt. Okay? 15 years later, the Michael Jackson estate is worth about $2.6 billion.
Wow.
So Michael's made much, much, much more money, thanks, in my opinion, to John Branca. He is the other person that was alive and represented Michael at the time. John Branca is the executor of the state, a genius, brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. But he and I are the only people alive that still represent the estate. Everyone else has died. So that's the PR firm. Then I started a year ago a consulting business. I decided that I wanted to dedicate a portion of my life to coaching and consulting people on how they can more effectively and efficiently get where they want to go, get to their big dream. And the program is called Find Your Why. Find Your Why. And if you go on michaellevineconsulting.com, you can learn about it, but find your why. What's your why? And once you get clear about yourself, the whole world will start to get clear around you. It's an interesting thing. So the consulting thing is very important to me. It's I don't know if it's a way of giving back. It's a way of communicating these ideas. That's why I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to your audience.
And that's not just for celebrities or things like that. That's for, okay.
No, it's for people who own small businesses and a young singer-songwriter, 20 years old, and a woman who started a gift company, a cheesecake company called Beloved Cheesecakes, and just a lot of great people. Many are authors, some are authors, but there's just a lot of great people and they want to know. They know they can get there. They just want to know what's the most effective and efficient path, right? They don't want to drive all over the Walmart parking lot. They want to go right to the center aisle, and so.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I'm lucky I had you as the first guest for this podcast.
Tell me, can I ask you a question? I didn't prepare you for this. I'm just going to ask you. What is Deposed? What is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a podcast.
And you actually motivated me to do this.
What is Deposed?
Yeah, I've always had, just like yourself, an intense curiosity about learning about people.
Yep. About human nature.
About human nature.
Yep.
And I think, although I'm a lawyer, I've learned
Well, you deal with human nature.
Absolutely. And so this was my outlet to formalize more so. There are times where we've had conversations where I felt like I wish there was a microphone here. Because when Michael said, I feel selfish having all this information just to myself. I wanted to.
So Deposed is an outlet, a popular outlet for today, podcast, for you to embrace your natural inquisitiveness using the frame of deposed like a lawyer, right?
Right.
And you will, not in a legal sense, depose people. You will use that framework to embrace your natural inquisitiveness.
Spoken like the eloquence of a top public relations person.
I think it's so great. I think it's so great that you recognize this little piece of yourself and that you decided to embrace it and invest in it. I mean, you've come to this beautiful studio. You did it in a really first-rate way, along with the Manhattan Beach studios. And I know this costs time and money and effort, and you got first-class partners, and you didn't do it half-ass. That's great. I think you're going to have a lot of, first, I love the title. So I think that was your idea. It's good, cool. So good luck to you. I hope
Thank
it was
you.
of some value.
Absolutely, and I'm sure I'll watch this at some point again and realize there's a lot of topics I didn't cover with you and areas
Can I
where
come back?
I would love to have you back.
We'll do.
So, all right, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.